All right, we're also learning right now here on Live Now from Fox more about the attack that injured several pieces of U.S. service members in Iraq at Al-Asad Air Base. And I do want to put up some tweets here on Live Now from Fox as we're learning potentially who was behind this attack as well. From Reuters saying the U.S. Defense Secretary Austin says an Iran-backed militia was behind yesterday's attack on U.S. forces in Iraq, but says the U.S. military is still working to determine which group specifically carried it out. The U.S. Defense Secretary says the U.S. won't tolerate attacks on U.S. personnel in the Middle East after a rocket attack wounded 7 people at Al-Asad Air Base in Iraq. Austin stopped short, however, of articulating a potential response. We do know more about those individuals injured, as 5 were U.S. service members, 2 U.S. contractors who were injured in the Iran proxy attack on that airbase Monday. 5 of the injured personnel are receiving care at Al-Asad, and 2 have been evacuated for further care. All 7 injured personnel are in stable condition. So new information. We're also learning more about troop movements as troop movement comes as U.S. officials release more details about the rocket attack that hit a military base, injuring American personnel. About a dozen fighter jets from the USS Theodore Roosevelt aircraft carrier flown to a military base in the Middle East as part of the Pentagon's effort to help defend Israel and from possible attacks by Iran and its proxies and to safeguard U.S. troops. In recent weeks, Iranian-backed Iraqi militias have resumed launching attacks on bases housing U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria after a lull of several months following a strike on a base in Jordan in late January that killed 3 American soldiers and prompted a series of retaliatory airstrikes. All right, let's take you right now out to some of these comments from Defense Secretary Austin, Secretary of State Blinken, answering questions about this attack and an update on some of the personnel injured. Let's listen in.
Sure that it was an Iranian-backed Shia militia group. Specifically, which group we're still investigating to determine that. In terms of whether or not or when Iran would choose to attack Israel, I'm not going to speculate on any Iranian actions going forward. Idris, as you know, what I've been focused on is making sure that we're doing everything we can to put measures in place to protect our troops and also make sure that we're in a good position to aid in the defense of Israel if called upon to do that. So you've seen us do a number of things to strengthen our force posture. And again, I'm in constant communications with my commanders in the region and also with our allies as well. So we'll see how this evolves, but I won't speculate on any specific action by Iran or any other Iranian-backed group going forward.
And Idris, with regard to the Middle East, it is manifestly in the interests of everyone involved to avoid escalation, to avoid the conflict spreading. And I believe that actually no one wants escalation. No one wants to see the conflict spread. But it's very important that no one takes steps that could lead to that, even if it's unintended. And that's why we've been engaged in this intense effort across the region and beyond to press everyone involved, including Israel, to avoid anything that could actually escalate the conflict. And again, it comes down to the fact that that's not where people want to go. We want to make sure to the best of our ability that they don't go there, even inadvertently. When it comes to the ceasefire, let's understand where we are, how we got there, and why we believe this is something that should close and should close very soon. Some weeks ago now, President Biden put before the world a proposal for the ceasefire, the release of hostages, a pathway to an enduring peace in Gaza. And the entire world rallied behind it. Country after country stood up in support of the proposal, culminated in a vote at the United Nations Security Council, 14-0, endorsing the proposal, indeed incorporating it into a resolution. We don't see the Security Council agreeing on much these days, but I think that reflects the fact that quite literally the entire world came out in support of it. And then it took some time, but Hamas, after a couple of weeks, agreed to support the proposal. So there's agreement on the framework. What we've been working on for the last few weeks are important details of how that is actually implemented. And there were some things that had to be negotiated in that process. That work has continued, even with the recent events in the region. And we believe, based on the work that's been done, based on the very practical issues that are at stake, that there is no reason that this should not be concluded and concluded quickly. So this is really a time for all of the parties involved to close this out. No delays, no excuses, no reasons why we can't do something. Focus on getting to yes. The reason, among other things, that we very much want to avoid any escalation is because, yes, that has the potential to disrupt concluding the ceasefire agreement. So in and of itself, escalation would be a bad thing, but it also has the potential to upend bringing the ceasefire over the line and bring it to conclusion. Again, this ceasefire is profoundly in the interest of everyone. It's in the interest of Israelis. It's in the interest, of course, of the hostages, their families around the world, including in the United States. It's manifestly in the interests of the Palestinian children, women, and men who are suffering every day. It's in the interests of virtually every country in the region, because not only is what's happening in Gaza at stake, but many of these other points of conflict will also be profoundly affected by getting a ceasefire. It opens up the prospect of calming things down everywhere in the region. So that's our focus. We're doing everything we can both to avoid the escalation, bring the ceasefire agreement to conclusion, and we won't stop until we get there.